What's up, my friends, and welcome into another edition of the PHLY Phillies podcast. As always, brought to you by our friends over at Bet365. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Sign up using the promo code on your screen there, PHLY365. Deposit just $10 and place your first bet for $5 and get $150 back in bonus bets, whether you win or lose, and find out why it's never ordinary at Bet365. A happy Wednesday afternoon to all of you across the Delaware Valley and beyond. Whether you're watching this live, hello everybody in the chat. Molly and Barclays Life. Ray Schumacher, hello to you all. We appreciate you. Hello to Andrew and Joey producing today's show. And a big thank you to everybody who's tuning in later on in the day as well, whether it be via the audio podcast or here on YouTube. Thank you so much for being making us a part of your day. We really, really appreciate it. So before we get into the Philly stuff today, I do want to say big day across Philadelphia sports. Doesn't have anything to do with the Phillies necessarily, but the PHLY Sixers draft party and draft live show is tonight. Now, they have capped RSVPs, so if you have not RSVP'd, you can still go. You can still be there, but there unfortunately is not a guarantee that you're going to be on the top floor. This is a split-level place. It's at the Boozy Mutt in the city. Starts at 7 o'clock, runs until 11. But top level of the venue is where Devon and Derek and Kyle and Rich and Bree are going to be doing the live show leading up to the draft and after the pick. So we'll talk with them, I'm sure, throughout the day. They are gearing up for this super important Sixers draft that, you know, could really change the outlook of the team's future, at least, I should say. Not necessarily this season, because I'll be interested to see how Nick Nurse utilizes whomever they select at number 3 or at 5 or at 7 or whatever they end up doing. But it could dictate how the future goes. So head on over to the Boozy Mutt tonight. And, of course, thank you to everybody who RSVP'd to the event. We have capped it at 100 RSVPs. You are the absolute best. But it's not just the Sixers who have a draft party coming up. It is the Flyers as well. Friday night at Chickie and Pete's in South Philly. Join both the PHLY Flyer staff and Broad Street Hockey. So that means you'll be joined by Bill, Charlie, Kelly, Steve, and whomever else is with the Broad Street crew who's going to be there. And special guest appearance from the man himself, Mr. Bernie Perrant. So that one starts at 7 o'clock on Friday from Chickie and Pete's in South Philly. So hope you can join us for that one as well. All right, that is enough of our things that we need to touch on for PHLY, including, of course, PHLY Eagles and Sixers coming up at 2 and 3 o'clock, respectively. Let's get into the Phillies conversation. A lot to get into. We'll do our Ace Hardware Temp Check, our big deal segment as well. But we have to start with last night's game because Ranger Suarez was freaking incredible last night. 7 2/3 innings pitched, 7 strikeouts, took a no-hitter into the 6th inning. And Ranger Suarez, what impressed me the most last night about Ranger Suarez, what impresses me the most about Ranger Suarez pretty much every time he takes the mound is he was in complete control. He got everything he wanted from the first pitch up until the solo home run on his 99th pitch and into the 8th inning. Ranger Suarez probably was the best player on the field yesterday for both teams. And that's not a knock for Framber Valdez, who I thought was really, really good. And the one thing with Framber Valdez, before we get more into Rangers night, Framber Valdez has some of the most ridiculous run. They call it a sinker. I've noticed recently across baseball, as phrasing changes and as pitch names change, you don't see too many two-seamers anymore, right? It's a lot of just sinkers. They're different pitches. Don't get me wrong. They are definitely different pitches. But I think the game has almost fused two-seam and sinker together because they do similar stuff. Backdoor run, arm side run. You can throw it hard. Now, I think with the sinker, a lot of guys throw the sinker a little bit harder. They pull down a little bit more. It's got a little bit of that pronate turn to it, if you will. And it allows for that. For lefties, it goes this way. For righties, it goes this way type of spin. And they're similar enough pitches where I almost feel like two-seamers don't really exist anymore. It's just a lot of sinker. But Framber Valdez gets unreal run on his two-seam. That pitch, or on his sinker, that pitch has so much movement to it. And for whatever reason, whether it's a combination of He's really, really good. That run on the two-seam is nasty. The break on the curveball is really exceptional. And he keeps hitters off balance. The Phillies have not had any success off of Framber Valdez. But we'll talk more about that in just a second. Back to Ranger Suarez. Ranger was, to me, the best player on the field last night. And I know Valdez ended up throwing 7 scoreless innings, whereas Ranger gave up the home run to Cooper Hummel in the 8th. And that was the only run that mattered. But Framber Valdez walked 4 and gave up 4 hits. Ranger Suarez gave up 4 hits but only walked 1. I thought Ranger was just in utter and total complete control last night. From the first pitch again until the 99th pitch, he ended up throwing 101. And he was efficient. He was in command. His control was pinpoint. And we've talked about this plenty with Ranger Suarez. The best Ranger Suarez that we see is the guy who figures out which pitch is the best early in the night. So sometimes it's the sinker, sometimes it's the curveball, and last night it was the changeup. He threw the changeup 28 times because of the fact that every hitter that the Astros sent to the plate against him hit from the right side. He didn't face a single left-handed batter over 7 2/3 innings. He threw 28 changeups, 23 sinkers, 21 curveballs, and 20 cutters. He threw 9 four-seam fastballs in there as well. But he threw 4 pitches 92 times out of 101. But the discrepancy was 28 to 20 between the most used pitch and the least used pitch. And that's when Ranger's at his best, when he's mixing and matching his pitches, when he's using 3 at minimum, but sometimes 4 pitches to the best extent that he can. And that's when he's at his best, is when he keeps hitters off balance, he keeps them guessing, and what he's able to do, especially when he faces a right-handed heavy lineup like he faced last night with the Astros, is he doesn't allow a whole lot of hard contact. Now, Rich Hoffman put this out in his morning newsletter that he puts out every single morning, and I urge you, if you're not subscribed to the morning newsletter, you should check it out, because it's not just Phillies conversation. Sixers draft, Flyers draft, Eagles talk, all of it. But he talked about Ranger Suarez, and the one thing that he said, and I clipped it earlier today, was that Rich is, he said himself, he's not the biggest exit velocity truther, meaning that when it comes to what's the exit velocity that a pitcher gave up, it doesn't mean, it's not the end-all be-all for him, because what matters more, I'm surmising, I assume, what matters more to Rich is it's outcome. How many hits did he give up? How many runs did he give up? And I totally get that. I think that exit velocity tells a story, and sometimes it tells the story properly, and sometimes it tells the story that didn't unfold. For example, last week, or was it 2 weeks ago, whatever week it was, that Mick Abel made a start against the Toronto Blue Jays. Abel went 5 innings. I think he gave up 1 earned run. Numerically, he was good. He gave up a lot of hard contact against the Blue Jays in that game. Got away with it. I think 7 of the 9 hardest hit balls that the Blue Jays had in that game were outs. Sometimes that happens. Sometimes you get away with it. Inversely, sometimes you give up soft contact and it's a bleeder down the left field line that finds no man's land. It's a bunt base hit or a check swing base hit that Alec Boehm goes to bare hand, make the throw, speedy runner doesn't get him. Sometimes it inversely doesn't tell the story the other way. Sometimes your soft contact ends up finding spots. It's just baseball over 162 games. But sometimes exit velocity tells exactly the story that unfolded. And last night, I think exit velocity told exactly the story that unfolded for Ranger Suarez. Last night, Ranger Suarez, for the most part, held the Houston Astros to very little hard contact. He gave up 3 hard contact balls batted that were considered hard hit. The Astros were 1 for 3 off of them. And unfortunately, one of them happened to be Cooper Hummel's home run. That was 103.5 off the bat. The other 2 were a fly out and a ground out. Other than that, he gave up exit velocities of 93, 92, 91 twice, 90, and everything else. And when I say everything else, it's not like it was 3 or 4. It was exit velocities 9 through 18 were under 90 miles an hour. The average exit velocity last night, I believe, for Ranger Suarez was 82.2. I say I believe. I'm looking at it. It was 82.2. That's below his season average for a guy that's in like the 90th percentile of exit velocity to begin with, for a guy who, and I'm going to pull it up for you in just a second, who is in the 98th percentile of average exit velocity, he only gives up, his average exit velocity is 85. He was below that last night. When I say he was masterful last night. And it was unfortunate that it all came unraveled due to one swing because of the fact that the Phillies offense had no life. Absolutely no life to it. Now, we talk about hard contact, and I will say there were times that the Phillies put the ball in play hard. If you look at the average, the exit velocity given up in yesterday's game, the Phillies had the top 4 hardest hit balls. They also had 5 of the top 7 and 8 of the top 10. You want to take it a little bit further, they ended up having 15 of the top 19 hard hit balls. Sometimes you run into unlucky plays, and sometimes you do run into, you hit the ball hard and it didn't matter. 108 off the bat of Nick Castellanos, out. 107, Edmundo Sosa, double play. 105, JT, out. Trey Turner, base hit, 103. Alec Boehm, 102, out. Johan Rojas, 103, out. Otto Kemp, 102, error, would have been an out. JT Realmuto, 101, ground ball. Nick Castellanos, 101, grounded into double play. The Phillies hit 9 balls at 100 miles an hour or more and were 1 for 9 on those swings. Sometimes it happens. The bigger problem that I have than that, because they did hit the ball hard at times, and sometimes you just ground into, you hit the ball hard right at somebody. The unfortunate part is that it ended up being 2 double plays out of that number. The bigger problem that I have is there was nothing hit hard timely. Even when it did get hit hard with runners in scoring position, that's where 2 of the double plays came into effect. The Phillies were 0 for 7 with runners in scoring position last night. And they never got anything when they had a chance to pepper Framber Valdez. There were a couple of times last night where the Phillies had first and second and 1 out and got nothing out of it. Valdez walked 4 last night. His command wasn't particularly strong. Now, again, the stuff is really, really good, but his command wasn't particularly strong last night. He threw 92 pitches, of which only 51% were in the zone. And he only got 60% zone swing, and there wasn't a lot of chase last night. The Phillies did a good job of laying off of bad pitches. The Phillies only swung at pitches outside of the zone 16% of the time. They left 9 on base, and they were 0 for 7 with runners in scoring position. That's the offensive story of the game last night. That's it. It's that simple. They got nothing going last night. And listen, over 162 games, you're going to get shut out, and you're going to lose these type of games. They hadn't been shut out since May 9th against the Cleveland Guardians. And if you remember that game, that was the night they didn't get into Cleveland until like 4 o'clock in the morning. They were clearly jet lagged. Ranger pitched well. I think it was Ranger who started in that game. Pitched well, but the Phillies got nothing offensively. So I'm not going to overreact to the offense last night. And I'm going to look at this and say the overarching positive was Ranger was unbelievable. The overarching negative was they got nothing offensively. Now, it was against 3 really good pitchers. Framber was excellent. The reliever that I think is the most underappreciated reliever in all of baseball because he's not a closer is Bryan Abreu. I have been on the Bryan Abreu is a top 10 reliever in baseball train for 4 years now because I think he's that good. Dating back to the 2022 World Series, I think he is one of the most unheralded relievers in baseball because he's not Emanuel Class. He's not Mason Miller. He's not he's not a closer. He's a setup guy. But I think he's one of the best relievers in all of baseball. And then they face Josh Hader, who's now 20 for 20 in save opportunities and has been lights out all season long. But let's talk about the 9th inning for just a second. And then we'll get into kind of the bulk of what today's show is. The 9th inning, for a team that what Rob Thompson did yesterday was deploy a right-handed heavy lineup. With Framber Valdez as a lefty, he went with Otto Kemp. He went with Johan Rojas. He went with Buddy Kennedy. All of those guys, and Edmundo Sosa, who has been raking against lefties this season. But the other 3 guys, Rojas, Kennedy, and Kemp, were the what are you going to get from these 3 guys type of conversation. Kemp's hit the ball hard at times. I'm totally okay with Otto Kemp playing last night. With Rojas and Kennedy specifically, the questions arose before the game started, righty-lefty matchups, and then, of course, they came into play late in the game. So Otto Kemp strikes out to begin the top of the ninth. Edmundo Sosa gets hit by a pitch, and you have a runner on first with one out. The question was, should Buddy Kennedy or maybe end Johan Rojas hit last night? So Josh Hader's numbers against everybody this year have been off the charts good. He's just as good against righties as he is against lefties. In fact, I think he's faced so few lefties that he's almost got reverse splits because he's faced so many righties this year. But it comes into question, should Johan Rojas have hit last night? And I'm not going to sit here and B and C about one managerial decision for a game that the offense got nothing the entire night. But should Johan Rojas have hit last night? This is the type of question that you ask when a team doesn't have a particularly strong bench and they deployed a right-handed heavy lineup, which left them with all lefties on their bench against a lefty closer. There's no real right answer to this question. Should Johan Rojas have hit last night? I believe the answer is no. In that particular spot, I needed a more professional at bat. Now, there's no real answer to this question because the bench was Bryson Stott, who doesn't hit well against lefties, Max Kepler, who's not hitting well against lefties, and Brandon Marsh, who doesn't hit well against lefties. And of course, Rafael Marchand. I guess you could have sent Marchand to the plate, but then you've put yourself without a catcher if you were to tie the game and something were to happen. So I'm always hesitant to pinch hit my backup catcher in those type of spots. But it was a lefty heavy bench against a lefty closer. If a righty were pitching, Brandon Marsh would have hit and Max Kepler would have hit. Kepler would have hit for Kennedy. Marsh would have hit for Rojas, or vice versa. But I think that's how they would have gone about it. With it being a lefty, I don't want to say Rob Thompson's hands were tied because he still could have made a decision. I personally would have had Max Kepler hit for Johan Rojas. It doesn't make it this world-class at bat, but I think Kepler, even bad against lefties, provides you a more serviceable at bat in that individual spot than what Johan Rojas does. Rojas hasn't hit over the last month and a half. He hit decently at the end of April into the early portions of May, but since the early portion of May, he hasn't hit. And I think in that particular spot, if I were managing, I would have taken my chances with Kepler providing me a professional at bat as opposed to what Johan Rojas did. Now, the second part of this conversation is, should Johan Rojas have swung 2-0? This is a little bit more of a nuanced conversation. I am a big believer that you should never let the best pitch you're going to see in an at-bat go by. This is coming from somebody who raves about and screams about into the ether about working at-bats. So maybe it's a little bit hypocritical of me. In a 2-0 spot, you're looking for a fastball. No doubt about it, Johan Rojas was hunting a fastball. However, you have to be hunting a fastball in a spot. You can't just be hunting heat. And with Rojas specifically in that spot, he wasn't looking for a pitch. He was looking for any fastball. It was pretty evident by the pitch that he swung at. So I don't have an issue going after a fastball if it's in the spot you're looking for. Do you like a pitch middle? Do you like a pitch middle in? Do you like a pitch down and in? Whatever your spot is, if you get it, go ambush it. No problem there. The pitch that Johan Rojas went after was above the hands, was up in the zone. He was never going to catch up to it. Josh Hader throws too hard and is too good and is too deceptive for that to be the pitch that you went after. Change the complexity of the at-bat. I'm not going to put this on Johan Rojas to say that that was the end of the game. The Phillies had multitude of chances. As Ray Schumacher points out in the chat, and we've mentioned, 0 for 7 with runners in scoring position and 9 left on base. This game doesn't fall on Johan Rojas' shoulders. That at-bat, though, I think could have changed in multiple different ways. Some of it on Rob Thompson, some of it on Johan Rojas. So should Rojas have swung at that pitch? No. Should Rojas have gone after a fastball if he got it in his spot 2-0? 100%. I also, knowing who's hitting with Buddy Kennedy and Johan Rojas up, would probably have tried to put Edmundo Sosa in motion. Now, understanding if you're going to try to steal or you're going to try a hit and run, you better be safe because you can't be the tying run and get thrown out trying to steal a bag. I get that point. But in the situation that was provided, knowing the fact that these two guys are coming up, knowing the fact that Josh Hader has the advantage pretty much over anybody, I would have thought about maybe putting Edmundo Sosa in motion and at least shifting defensive positioning. It's something extra to think about. There's a lot that went wrong in yesterday's game. I'm not going to place blame on Rob Thompson. I'm not going to place blame on Johan Rojas or Buddy Kennedy. I'm going to place blame on the entire offense. The entire offense from top to bottom. Trey Turner included, Alec Bohm included, Kyle Schwarber included. This group did not put together at bats when it was necessary. They walked a bunch. They had 4 hits. They had 8 base runners in 7 innings off of Framber Valdez and got nothing to show for it. So 1 game in the span of a series, 1 game in the span of a season. My takeaway, Ranger good, offense bad. Pretty simplistic. All right, we're going to pause for just a moment. On the other side, we are going to get into our big deal segment. We'll get into our Ace Hardware temp check segment, and we'll wrap up today's show with a frustration of mine, and I know Andrew's going through it as well, so I want to talk to him about it as well. We'll do that on the other side. It is the PHLY Phillies podcast brought to you by our friends over at Bet365. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. We'll be back right after this. All right, let's start with our friends over at LinkedIn. As a small business owner, you know you don't have time to clock out. Your business is on your mind 24/7, and it has to be. It's your livelihood. It's your lifeblood. And the people that make your small business go are the people that you hire. And if you're looking for the right candidate for the right job, head on over to LinkedIn and LinkedIn.com, and they are going to be the ones that help you find the best candidate as quickly as possible. So what you're going to do is post your job on LinkedIn. You can do it for free, or you can pay to promote it. And promoted jobs get 3 times as many qualified candidates and qualified insights. You can also use LinkedIn's new feature to help you write your job descriptions for you and then quickly get that job in front of the right pool of candidates to find the best candidate possible. At the end of the day, your most important thing to you is the quality of candidate. And with LinkedIn, you can feel confident that you're getting the best. Based on LinkedIn data, 72% of small businesses that use LinkedIn say that LinkedIn helped them find high-quality candidates, and you can find out why more than 2.5 million small businesses use LinkedIn for hiring today. Find your next great hire at LinkedIn. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/Phillies. Once again, linkedin.com/Phillies to post your job for free. Terms and conditions do apply. Bet365, our presenting sponsor. You find out why it's never ordinary at Bet365, and 90 million users worldwide have found that out firsthand. They live stream 780,000 events each and every year, and they are the pioneers of live in-game betting. I posted last night, midway through the game, probably in about the 7th inning, that the over-under in yesterday's game dropped from 7.5 to start to 2.5 in the 7th inning. If you bet 7.5, you were cashing easy in last night's game, but you could have gotten in at 2.5 and still won because the final was 1-0. And of course, early payouts. I know the NHL and NBA seasons have just concluded, but you can get back in on them next season with some early payouts as well. And new users, head on over to Bet365. You'll get $150 in bonus bets whether you bet or when you bet $5, win or lose. So sign up, use the code PHLY365, deposit $10 and place a bet for $5 and get $150 back in bonus bets whether you win or lose. You can use those bonus bets on spreads, totals, player props, futures, and so much more. And that's why, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, please call 1-800-GAMBLER. Must be 21 and physically located in Pennsylvania. All right, welcome back to the PHLY Phillies podcast. Hello to everybody in the chat. Do a little bit of a check-in real quick. TN, Ray Schumacher, Molly and Barkley's Life. Everybody that's here so far, thank you so much. TN, I just want to check in on your comment real quick. Think it's possible still if Stott or Marsh were to pinch hit there that they lose. Both those guys can have long at-bats and potentially walk against anybody. 100% possible they still lose. They're still facing Josh Hader. And neither of those two guys are particularly good against lefties this season. The righty-lefty thing in that particular spot is, I think, a moot point because of the fact that I need a more comfortable at-bat. And Johan Rojas isn't providing you comfortable at-bats, and neither is Buddy Kennedy. Buddy Kennedy, they work down in the zone all night long, breaking balls down in the zone. Johan Rojas, they work up in the zone, fastballs up there. He's not catching up. So I get your point, right? They may have still lost that game. There's a good percentage chance that they still do because prior to Buddy Kennedy getting out, there was or stepping up to the plate, there was an 83.1% chance that the Astros were going to win the game, according to Baseball Savant. Prior to Edmundo Sosa getting hit by the pitch, it was 91.3. So the likely scenario was the Astros were still going to win this game 1-0. I think it was just my confidence level in a professional at bat rises with Kepler or Stott. I still don't trust Marsh against lefties, even though I praised him for what he's done against righties, more so than what Johan Rojas would have provided. But again, it didn't, one at bat's not changing the outcome of the game. The offense was terrible, pretty much from the jump in this one. All right, let's get into our Ace Hardware Temp Check segment, where we check in on who's heating up or cooling down. It's brought to you by our friends over at Ace Hardware Home Services. Whether you need a cooling, heating, plumbing, I don't think you need any heating issues right now, but you may certainly need cooling with the temperature that's outside. You can head on over to acehardwarehomeservices.com. And I thought I would take this in a little bit of a different spin tonight or today. And I want to get a temperature check. I want to get a feel on what Dave Dombrowski is thinking with about a month to go until the trade deadline. Now, Dave Dombrowski sat down. I don't know if he sat down with Jayson Stark, but there was a conversation with Jayson Stark on The Athletic and on the New York Times. And they talked about a lot of different stuff. And Jayson Stark headlines the conversation of Dave Dombrowski has been a part of 35 trade deadlines through his career. He doesn't need to know what I think or what Andrew thinks or what Joey thinks or what you think to have an opinion on what he's going to do. Fair point. We all have opinions, and we're going to continue to spout them until the trade deadline. And then after the trade deadline, we're going to tell you how we feel. It's part of this job. It's part of this medium, and it's part of being a fan. But the part that really stood out to me was that Dave Dombrowski said two things. He was kind of asked point blank, is your team good enough to win the World Series or not? And Dombrowski said after watching the 2025 Phillies play 80 games, he said, quote, "We feel like we have a legitimate chance to win." And does that change your mindset on what Dave Dombrowski is going to do? Is he going to be more aggressive than maybe we expect? Perhaps. But then he followed up with maybe the more interesting part of this conversation, because Dave Dombrowski talked about a story not relating to the Phillies, but dating back to the 2018 Red Sox. The 2018 Red Sox famously won the World Series, right? But more importantly, used their bullpen in a way that was not about acquiring high-leverage relievers. They had one in Craig Kimbrell, but it was about using starters out of the bullpen. They used David Price out of the bullpen. They used Nate Eovaldi out of the bullpen. And the final out of the World Series which was a really great game, by the way, between them and the Dodgers, was recorded by Chris Sale. And Jayson Stark writes, this was all by design. So if the Phillies are still playing deep into the postseason, I think Dave Dombrowski is going to end up acquiring a reliever, but there's a really strong likelihood that one of the starting pitchers in the rotation ends up moving into a bullpen role. So he said, quote, "The postseason bullpen is a lot different than the regular season bullpen. You play 5 games, then you play 7, and the way that the schedule is, you only need 3 starting pitchers during that 5-game set. So if you have 5 starters, 2 of them can go into the bullpen." Not unexpected. It's something we've talked about for weeks. It's something we talked about even before Ranger pitching as well as he have, even before Lazardo being unreal and then having 2 clunkers and then pitching well again, before Aaron Nola got injured, before Mick Abel made his debut into the rotation. It's something we've considered even with Andrew Painter. So with Dave Dombrowski pointing out 2018 specifically and thinking about this bullpen and thinking about how good the Philly starting rotation is, the question is, who does Dave Dombrowski end up pinpointing as the starter? Maybe not Dave Dombrowski specifically, but who does Dave Dombrowski and the Phillies pinpoint as the starter that will move into the bullpen? Well, first and foremost, let's decide who it's not. It's not Zach Wheeler. Whether one radio show wants to say it is or not, it's not Zach Wheeler. Zach Wheeler starting game one of the postseason. Unless you need Zach Wheeler to pitch game 162, Zach Wheeler is starting game one of the wild card round or game one of the NLDS. The question is probably between the three lefties. Is it Sanchez? Is it Suarez? Is it Lazardo? Or is it Mick Abel? Now, my first thought has been Mick Abel for a while now, because I think you can trust all three of those lefties in the starting rotation in any particular order you want to put them in. Mick Abel is the interesting one because of the fact that I would love to see what he could do in one inning and throw gas. Because I think Mick Abel has done a really good job in the first inning of starts so far of establishing tempo. Where he's been hit around, and most of it's been via the solo home run, where he's been hit around is in the middle innings 3, 4, and 5 specifically. Abel, to me, would be the interesting one. If it's between the three lefties, I'll be honest with you. I know a lot of people have said the initial conversation was Ranger Suarez. That is a big-time, absolute, definitive no for me right now. Because if I'm setting up the pitching rotation, Ranger Suarez is pitching game 2. And I understand Christopher Sanchez has been way better at Citizens Bank Park than he's been on the road, but he's been much better on the road this season than he has been in years past. I trust Christopher Sanchez no matter if it's at Citizens Bank Park or on the road. It is a big-time no for me right now about Ranger Suarez pitching out of the bullpen, because I think he has been unbelievably consistent over his last 9 starts. He has a 2.08 ERA in the season, on the season, and he had a 7 earned run game to start his year against the Diamondbacks. He's been that good in his last 9 starts. Christopher Sanchez is an intriguing one because there is a real scenario where Christopher Sanchez could come out of the bullpen and throw absolute darts for 20 pitches and probably touch 100. My concern with Christopher Sanchez coming out of the bullpen, and it's been my concern about Sanchez for 2 years now, if you look at Sanchez's splits, as is the case with most starting pitchers, most good starting pitchers, the best time to get Christopher Sanchez is the first inning of work. Christopher Sanchez's splits they get better as the game goes on, up until, of course, a certain point, right? Like, of course, if you get into the 6th and 7th and 8th innings, that's where, he's throwing 90, he's at his 90, 95th, 100 pitch. But for Christopher Sanchez, just this year, in the first inning, I think that's the time to get him before he gets settled. And in fact, I'm going to try to scroll really quickly to find this. I apologize. He's down to a 3 because he's been good over the last couple of starts. But he has a 3 ERA in the first. He has a 3 ERA in the second. The third and fourth innings are his 2 best innings. He has a 1.29 ERA in each of those innings. I prefer Christopher Sanchez out of to remain in the rotation still. And I have no issues about Christopher Sanchez facing righties in high leverage spots because his best pitch is the right-handed hitter neutralizer pitch. It's the changeup. So that leaves me Jesus Lazardo. And if I were to pick right now which of the 3 starters goes to the bullpen, as much as I have raved about Lazardo and his ability to be a big game pitcher so far this season against the Mets, twice against the Cubs, against the Dodgers, his numbers have been unbelievable. Of those 3 guys, I think personally I would choose Lazardo. It's an incredible problem to have, at least from the starting pitching aspect of it. You need 2 relievers. There's no question about it. And if Dave Dombrowski is kind of hinting at they may only go get 1 and move a starter to the bullpen, I don't know if I want Ranger Suarez coming out of the bullpen, even though he's done it countless times for the Phillies in the past. He has been the absolute Swiss Army knife for this team. And he is a guy that I would trust in high leverage spots. I would trust to close the game out. But the way that he's pitched over the first 9 starts so far this year, I want him to continue to roll. If something changes, if he falters, if we see a Ranger Suarez that is starting to fatigue like we've seen in years past, Last year was his season innings pitched high at 155. If I see a Ranger Suarez start to falter, then I think the conversation could change. But right this moment, I don't want him out of the rotation, and I don't think I want Christopher Sanchez out of the rotation either. And so if I'm choosing one of the three lefties specifically, I might consider Jesus Lazardo. If I'm picking any of the four, I would be super intrigued about the answer being Mick Abel or the answer being Andrew Painter, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. But of the other four, I would be super intrigued about Mick Abel as a high-leverage right-handed reliever. And maybe not high leverage in terms of surpassing Orion Kerkering, but can he slot under Kerkering and between Kerkering and Romano? Can he slot under Romano even and be that third righty? So the third righty doesn't have to be Joe Ross or it doesn't have to be Taijuan Walker. I think that would serve a purpose for this team. So in terms of starting pitching, it's a really good problem to have. In terms of they need bullpen help, that's an undeniable truth. And somebody tweeted the other day, one of the, I think it may have been Passan, but I forget which one of the big baseball writers it was. And it was like, this team needs bullpen help, and this team needs bullpen help. And he didn't have the Phillies on there, but the Phillies are part of it. Here's the reality of the situation. Every good team, no matter how good or bad your bullpen is, wants bullpen help in the postseason. The Dodgers last year, who were ravaged by injuries, went out and got Michael Kopech at the deadline. They then went out and signed Tanner Scott this offseason. Why? Because you can never have enough good arms, especially out of the bullpen. You can never have enough good starters, but I think come postseason time, you want as many good relievers as you possibly can. It's why, we've talked about this before, why good relievers go for a significant price. It's why Carlos Estevez was expensive as a rental. It's why Lucas Erceg was expensive as a non-rental. It's why Tanner Scott was crazy expensive as a rental last year. And the Padres got a half a season out of him too. But you make these moves thinking you're bolstering your bullpen, they have to be done. So for the Phillies, it seems to me that Dave Dombrowski is hinting at, yes, they're going to acquire another reliever. But reliever number 2 probably more likely comes from the starting rotation, especially in the wild card round and the divisional round. All right, that's our Ace Hardware temp check segment of the day. On the other side, I want to play a little bit of a mystery reliever game. We're going to turn this on its head a little bit and talk about some relievers. I've picked out 5 relievers, and it comes from an article from ESPN, Jeff Passan, and Kylie McDonald. I want your thoughts. I'm going to get Andrew's thoughts, and I'll give you my thoughts on the other side. It's the PHLY Phillies podcast brought to you by our friends over at Bet365, and we will be right back here on the PHLY Phillies podcast. All right, let's talk about our friends Cherry Hill Mitsubishi. If you're looking for the most affordable 7-passenger SUV in America, cherryhillmitsubishi.com has you covered with the 2025 Outlander. And they're celebrating Memorial Day, continuing to celebrate Memorial Day all month long into the month of June with massive selection on budget-friendly and gas-sipping Mitsubishis. Here's a fact that shocked me too. Mitsubishi Motors is number one in customer satisfaction with dealer services among mainstream brands and SUV owners. And that's not me saying that. That's JD Power saying that. That's important. They also offer the best warranty in automotive business, 10 years, 100,000 miles, powertrain, and 5 years, 60,000 mile, bumper to bumper. So why settle for a lesser warranty and be on the hook for costly repairs down the road? So step in today and tell them that PHLY sent you, and you'll receive a $100 restaurant.com gift card just for taking a test drive or completing a trade appraisal. I know people buy Mitsubishis elsewhere. I'm just not quite sure why. Drive home in your new Mitsubishi today, just minutes from all bridges, or available online 24/7 at cherryhillmitsubishi.com. And speaking about saving money, right? You get that $100 restaurant gift card. And speaking about saving personal money, Monarch Money has you covered. It is never a bad time to start thinking about your finances or to start upgrading your finances, no matter what portion of life you're in. Whether you're in the paying back student loans portion of your life, you're in the saving for retirements portion of your life, you're in the down payment of a house portion of your life, and everywhere in between. It is never a bad idea to know exactly where you stand with your finances and to avoid that messy and confusing issue that you have. So Monarch Money serves as your personal CFO. They give you full visibility and control so you can stop earning and start growing. So don't just manage your money, start building wealth. And how about this? 50% off for users. We'll talk more about that in just a second. 50% off for listeners of the PHLY Phillies podcast. With all your accounts, your credit cards, your investments, they're going to be in one place. You'll know exactly where your money stands without the hassle. It's the finance tool that people actually loved. It's named a Wall Street Journal Best Budgeting App of 2025, and it's the top recommended personal finance app by users and experts with over 30,000 five-star reviews. Get control of your overall finances with monarchmoney.com. And as I said, use that code PHLY at checkout and at monarchmoney.com, and you'll get half off your first year. 50% off, once again, your first year at monarchmoney.com with the code PHLY. All right, welcome back to the PHLY Phillies podcast, brought to you by our friends over at Bet365. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. All right, let's get into our big deal segment of the day. As we just talked about our friends over at Cherry Hill Mitsubishi, they are our presenting sponsor of this segment. Again, 24/7 online, cherryhillmitsubishi.com, or just over any of the bridges into Cherry Hill to check out all of the incredible offers that they have, including the 2025 Outlander. So our big deal today, an article came out a couple of days ago. In fact, it came out yesterday, my apologies, and it was written by Kiley McDaniel and Jeff Passan on ESPN. And it was ranking MLB's top 50 trade deadline candidates. Number one is a player that the Phillies are not going to look into. At least I don't believe. It's Alex Bregman of the Boston Red Sox. It feels like the Red Sox are on a collision course to be a seller at the deadline. But they ranked 50 different players, and they gave a chance of trade percentage of all of these players. Alex Bregman was 10%. Sandy Alcantara, number 3, 60%. But I went and I pulled the top 5 players rankings-wise on this list that are relief pitchers, and I want to play this exercise with you at home watching, and I want to do it with Andrew Frazier as well, producing today's show. So I came up with the 5 mystery relievers that were ranked in this article, starting at number 12, and the rankings were 12, 13, 14, 17, and 18. 12, 13, 14, 17, 18. Yeah, that's how that math works. All right, so let's get into this today. This is our first mystery reliever. I included their baseball savant hot-cold map, and our mystery reliever number 1 has a 1.78 ERA so far this season, has pitched 35 1/3 innings over 37 appearances, has 40 strikeouts to just 14 walks. You see a slash line there. Sub 200 average, slugging just 220. And this reliever has 2 years of arbitration team control left before becoming a free agent in 2028. So, Andrew, I'll ask you first, and then I'm going to ask the chat. There's going to be 2 questions for each of these relievers. First question, yes or no, are you interested in acquiring this reliever? Second question, how much do you, 2-part question actually, how much do you believe this reliever is going to go for, and how much are you willing to give up for this reliever? So first and foremost, hello, Andrew. Haven't had a chance to talk to you yet.
Hello, Tyler. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. And in a second, you're going to see that Andrew and I inadvertently are matching today.
Yes,
we both decided to wear our Philadelphia Union jerseys. So first and foremost, Andrew, let me ask you this question. Yes or no to this reliever?
Yes.
I think this is unequivocally yes. Now, obviously, I know who this is. So it's unfair for me to answer this question a little bit. I have been on this particular reliever as one of the best bullpen pitchers. And no, it's not Brian Abreu, who I already talked about. This is not Brian Abreu, I promise. I think this is one of the best relievers in all of baseball. And I think this reliever has one of the single best pitches in all of baseball. So you're in. I'm unequivocally yes. Interested what the chat thinks. Now, nice jersey, by the way.
Oh, thank you. Yes.
Now, let me ask you, with all of those things that I just laid out, what do you think this guy goes for if he goes at the trade deadline?
Are you, man?
Not just Philly specific, just in general. Like, we're talking, if I gave you over under on 2.5 top prospects, like top 15 prospects.
Yeah.
Would you take the over or the under?
I mean, just looking at his stats, probably the over.
I tend to agree. I think this guy's going to go for a lot.
Yeah.
I would say a top 5, a top 10, and a top 15. or a top 20 is not outside the realm of,
Yeah,
like, thinking about what Tanner Scott went for last year, and this guy's not a rental. I could almost see this guy going for more than what Tanner Scott
definitely.
fetched last year. So definitively in, if I asked you, would you give up? I'm going to make up a trade proposal.
Sure.
If I asked you, would you give up Mick Abel, Justin Crawford, and I'm going to and Moises Chase, who's not pitching this year, but a top 10 prospect. Would you make that move?
Yes.
Okay.
I would.
So let's reveal who pitcher number 1 is.
Sure.
This is Yohan Duran of the Minnesota Twins, who ESPN gives a 40% chance of being traded this trade deadline. I think he is one of the elite closers in baseball, and his splitter is, what does Anthony say? Mother father?
Mother father.
Yeah. Is MF nasty.
Yeah.
Now, I don't want to trade Justin Crawford. I love Justin Crawford. I think the kid's going to be an everyday outfielder in Major League Baseball. However, 2 years of control left before he hits free agency, not including this year. So it's really 2.5. So next year and the following year.
Mm-hmm.
This is one of the preeminent closers in baseball. I absolutely freaking love this guy, and his splitter is disgusting. I would move heaven and earth to acquire Yohan Duran if he became available.
Yeah, I mean, you're obviously you're making these trades to win now, and bullpen rotation is something that we desperately need here.
Yep.
And he would, having him would be just a beautiful thing. So yeah, I mean, you're gonna have to give up for him, and yeah, I mean that's the price.
All right, let's go to reliever number 2. Now, this reliever is having a bit of a down year compared to.
Oh, you did not.
There
see
he
that.
is. Nah, it's cool.
Yeah, you
You're
didn't
good.
see that.
Having a bit of a down year compared to last year, where he was. You can show it. It's okay.
All right.
Was third in Cy
bad.
Young voting. It's Emanuel Class. Now, ESPN gives them a 20% chance of trading Class. I don't think this happens. I don't think Class gets moved. The Guardians, I still believe, are in contention enough to warrant keeping Class. So a 3.48 ERA this year, 35 strikeouts across 33 innings. He's given up a lot more hard contact than he did last year. You could see in the slash lines, opponents are hitting 296 off of him. So this is what I've been reading about Class A. Obviously, I'm not locked into Class A every game. He's leaving the cutter middle too much. The cutter is still a nasty pitch, 99 miles an hour, has filthy movement. But I think what the problem is he is thinking his stuff is just going to play no matter where he throws it. And that's not been the case this year. So he's under contract through 2028. He has 2 years guaranteed and then 2 years of club option, but total it spans just under $30 million. Now, I don't believe Class A gets moved, but I also think that Emanuel Class, when he is on, is not just one of the best closers in baseball. I think when Class A is on, he is the best closer in all of baseball. If the move became available, I know he's given up a lot of hard contact. I know the batting average against is not good this year. If he became available, it's a no-brainer for the Phillies to peek in. Between those two guys, knowing contract, knowing how they're pitching this year, if you were to pick one, would you go Duran or would you go Class A?
I'd probably go Duran. I know it's a higher price that you're going to have to probably pay to get him, but he just...
Oh, Class A is still going to cost you. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
I know, again, the numbers aren't as good as he was last year, but last year he, as I said, finished third in Cy Young voting. He had a .6 ERA and had a .66 whip. It's unobtainable to do that again. It's a down year by his measures, but if he finds himself somewhere in between the rest of the year and into next year, he's still an elite level closer.
Definitely. Yeah, I mean, it'd be hard to choose, really.
All right, so let's go to reliever number 3. And this is a reliever who has been in Phillies conversations quite a bit as of late. 2.6 ERA over 27 2/3 innings, Strikeout numbers are really, really good. 38 Ks in 27 and 2/3. Walk numbers, not so much. He's in the first percentile of walk rate, 17 walks over 27 innings. But he's not giving up a lot of hits, just a 141 batting average. And opponent slugging is 250 against. He is similar to Yohan Duran, 2 years of arbitration left before he becomes a free agent in 2028. Before I give the kind of giveaway detail of this reliever, interest in those numbers specifically and that heat map for this reliever.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, looking at those stats, 100%, he's somebody you would want to try to grab.
So, does it hurt this reliever at all to know that he has thrown those 27 innings this year, and those are the only 27 innings he has thrown since August of 2023?
Oh, really?
Coming back from injury, this reliever is Felix Bautista.
Okay.
The closer for the Baltimore Orioles, who has been in the conversation for the Phillies for quite some time now. You see all that red. The one blue is the walk rate.
Mm-hmm.
The Phillies already have a Jose Alvarado on. And I'm not saying to not acquire Bautista because of Alvarado. Like, what I'm saying is the Phillies have seen and lived with and thrived Jose Alvarado, who sometimes doesn't have command. Felix Bautista is a similar type of arm, power fastball. Strikeout numbers are off the charts. Doesn't give up a lot of hits. Doesn't give up a ton of generates a lot of whiff. Generates a ton of swing and miss, and sometimes falls victim to his own command. There's no downside to me about Felix Bautista now that he's starting to have a sample size coming back into this thing. Again, a reliever that I spelled his name wrong, by the way, on that. I just realized that I spelled his name wrong on that graphic. I added an S in there that doesn't belong. My apologies. This seems, again, with 2 years left and him now bouncing back from injury, ESPN puts this at a 15% chance. If he's available, I would make the move. All of these guys are going to require extremely high price tags. But if he's available, I would consider it.
And all of these guys you're moving for, if they're available.
Yeah, so far I would not say no to any of these guys.
Yeah.
Again, there are to me, and this everybody's different. There are 3 trade pieces that I would not move. I would not move Andrew Painter. That's a non-negotiable. Still to this day, non-negotiable. I am super, super, super high and like very much pro-clutching Eduardo Tait, the catching prospect.
Yeah.
And then I still would be really hesitant to move Aiden Miller.
Okay. Yeah, Aiden Miller, definitely.
Other than that, as much as I love Justin Crawford, for the right price, I would make a trade. As much as I love Moises Chase, who I've raved about, I would make the trade. As much as I love Griffin Burkholder and Dante Nori and the guys that they're starting to mature as players, both high school draft picks over the last couple of years, I would trade them. Like, I do not pro-clutch prospects with the exception of the big, big ones. And to me, there's 3.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, you want to see this team win. We're in a win now mentality. And unfortunately, in order for that to happen, you're going to have to probably get rid of 1 or 2 of these prospects that we want to hold on to so dearly. But I mean, is it better to get the proven talent, get somebody like one of these relievers who's going to help you now, or is it, let's take the gamble on somebody we don't entirely know what they're going to pan out to be in the majors? And Crawford can be that guy. We don't know exactly how he's going to translate up here.
Crawford could be a everyday major league player. I believe he can be. And I know people, every time they talk about Crawford, go, oh, well, his skill, the way that he hits the ball, obviously a lot of ground balls, a lot of low launch angle type of stuff. The way that he hits the balls is not going to translate to the major leagues. Maybe fair, maybe not. But every time he gets promoted, all he does is hit. He's hit 300 everywhere he's gone. He's an unbelievable athlete. He's going to steal you bags. He's going to cause problems on the base paths. He's going to play very good defense. Is the pop ever going to be there? It may never come to fruition. If he can be a spray type of hitter with a little bit of doubles gaps upside, Because a guy like him doubles gaps, like doubles upside is really triples upside.
Yeah.
Because of his speed, right? So if he can be a little bit of doubles upside and a guy who can spray the ball over the field and leg out a bunch of stuff, then I do believe he is going to be a major league everyday player. I still think for the right return, I'm not just outwardly saying no. But he's probably in tier 2 for me. And tier 2 is it's got to be the right return. It's not a no immediately like the other 3 guys are, but it's got to be the right return.
So on this list so far of guys that you've shown, I'll ask you the question, who would you give up? If Crawford was going to be in one of those, which one of these guys would you give him up for?
Yohan Duran.
Duran?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, Class A 2 probably. If you're thinking about like how much these guys, if you're really comparing money, because Class A is on 4 years, 2 of them are club control. I think the last 2 are like, I don't know, they're like $12 million. It was, I'll be honest with you. And now a lot of guys are signing these contracts to like blow out the arbitration years, because in baseball, obviously, like team control is so pressing that if you get hurt, you may never get the first big contract. So I get it, right? But he's $4.9 million next year, $6.4 million the year after, and then 2 years of $10 million.
Okay.
That's a freaking steal.
Yeah.
For the Guardians.
Yeah.
Like, and yeah, I know it's a down year for him technically, but like that is a steal for the Guardians. And even at $10 million over those final 2 club options, if he pitches, I'm not asking him to be 0.61 ERA, Emanuel Class, but if he can be 1.9, 2.2, elite level stuff like he's got, you can't get a closer on the open market like that for $10 million.
No way.
So, I think Duran is the guy that has, you can see when I talk about Duran, I light up.
Yeah, definitely.
Because I genuinely, when I talk about like the 5 best single pitches in baseball, his splitter's in that conversation. Like I say, his splitter, Senga's forkball, Skeens' fastball, probably Scooble's fastball at this point. And then like I would venture a guess to maybe put Christopher Sanchez's changeup on that list.
Okay.
And Zach Wheeler's fastball is probably in the conversation as well.
It's a good list.
It's a great list, right?
Yeah,
so to have Duran, and I don't mean because I put it together. I mean, it's because it's 5 elite level pitches.
Yeah.
Like, to me, those are the type of pitches that are like, you can't hit this pitch. It just doesn't work. So for those, like, if you're on that list, that splitter's filthy. And he can throw it for strikes, and then he buries you with it. So I love Duran, but Class A to me, when he's right, is the best closer in baseball. All right, we've got 2 more guys, but we have a break and overtime coming up. Andrew, I apologize. We may go through. I know you've got the Sixers, so I'm not going to keep you too long. But let's pause for just a second. 2 more relief pitchers on the other side, and then we'll save our complaint segment for Friday because we're going to run out of time. But this is the PHLY Phillies podcast brought to you by our friends over at Bet365. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. We'll be right back on the PHLY Phillies podcast right after this. All right, Ace Hardware Home Services. If you're looking to get anything fixed in your house, from plumbing to electrical to heating to cooling, Ace Hardware has the trusted pros to keep your home humming all year long. And they bring the helpful hardware folks directly to your home. It's that helpful that you love from the store, now right to your front door, all the way from Philly to the Jersey Shore. It has been super hot as of late. And if your AC is not cranking on full blast, well, then you want to get Ace out to your house as soon as possible to fix that and rectify that situation, because you just don't want to be sitting in a hot, swampy, muggy house. You want to get the AC moving right away. They listen to your goals, and a job's not complete until you are satisfied, and it's service you can trust with satisfaction guaranteed. Visit Ace Hardware Home Services online at acehardwarehomeservices.com to get started on your next project. And speaking of the pros in flooring, that's our friends over at Empire Today. You want to get in with the pros who are the experts, dedicated flooring professionals who focus on flooring every single day. We've all been to the big box stores. You wander those aisles aimlessly, and sometimes you end up having to haul all of that material home by yourself. You have to end up looking for an installer. It's just a big hassle. So Empire wants to be with you every step of the way, as they live and breathe flooring, and they bring a whole different ballgame to the flooring space. They're the experts that bring your showroom right to your door. You can pick the right flooring and right colors for your space and see how it looks with your furniture in your house. With Empire Today, you get clear, upfront, and honest, all-inclusive pricing as well. Plus, you can schedule installation as soon as the next day. So visit empire.com today, empire.today.com, to learn more. Empire Today /PHLY for full details and schedule a free in-home estimate, because some things are just better at home, and you'll get $350 off when you use the promo code PHLY. Once again, Empire Today /PHLY for full details. Restrictions do apply. All right, welcome back to the PHLY Phillies podcast. Sorry to do this to you, Andrew. I know you're working really hard today. We are late, but in overtime. All right, two more relievers to get to today before we wrap up today's show. This reliever was ranked the number 17, and I don't know, this must be rankings in terms of how they viewed these players. This player had the highest chance of being traded of the players that we discussed. So Duran was 40, Class A 20, Bautista 15. Again, I don't think Class A gets moved. Duran maybe. Bautista, I think I could see that happening, even though he does have team control for a while. This player has a 60% chance of being moved. Has a clubbed option for 2026. Has a 2.15 ERA over 29 and a third innings pitched. 26 strikeouts, 14 walks. Does a really good job of limiting hits. Doesn't generate a ton of whiff. Doesn't strike out at a super high rate. Walk rate's a little bit high, but does a really good job of limiting hard contact and just doesn't get barreled. This is the first reliever on this list that I would be hesitant to trade significant prospects for.
Yeah.
And the reason being is he's done a really nice job of limiting hard contact, and maybe this is a little bit hypocritical after I just talked about Ranger for so long, but he's throwing hard with more action on his pitch, but I think the club option...
That's what I was looking
at. And I apologize. I'm going to find it for you in just a second. The club option is a good thing to have because you can evaluate, but it's for $7 million. It's actually way less than I thought. But he's going to be 32 and then a free agent at 33. This is the first one I'm hesitant on.
Okay.
Just because I think his swing and miss stuff is less than the other three guys that we just mentioned.
Okay.
I still would absolutely acquire this guy, but I would not move heaven and earth like I would at least the first two and probably Bautista as well. Where are you at with this guy?
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way as you. Looking at like his stats, looking at that club option.
And it's not crazy money. $7 million isn't like...
Yeah, the age also. I mean, he's definitely somebody you go after, but I wouldn't be giving up a huge price for him.
So over the last 3 seasons, he's gone 2-1, 3-5, 2-5. So the 3-5 was over 46 games. He's been this team's closer for a while now. 25 saves in 23, 23 saves in 24. Fastball value hasn't diminished terribly as he gets older. Opponents actually hitting worse this year off of his fastball than they were a season ago. It's actually kind of gotten a little bit better. Fastball value last year, -1. This year, it's a 3. I still would be interested, don't get me wrong, but he doesn't generate a ton of chase. He doesn't generate a ton of whiff, and his walk rates are not very good. He's just really good at avoiding the barrel of the bat and doesn't give up a ton of hard hit contact. So this reliever is Pete Fairbanks from the Tampa Bay Rays. And I like this guy. I don't love this guy. The expected numbers are great. The fastball velo still is there. And in fact, it's really kind of, he was 98 2 years ago. He's down to 97 this year as he gets a little bit older. He's been really good this season against lefties, actually. His splits are better against lefties than they are against righties. His 17 strikeouts against lefties and only 9 against righties in basically the same amount of time. His whip's at 0.9. Interested, yes. going crazy over? No. And then we get to our fifth guy. And by the way, Ray Schumacher, Ryan Helsley is not on this list. And the reason is because I just went with the top 5. He's ranked 23rd. Right this moment, I really don't have a lot of interest in Helsley. Obviously, really good stuff, but he's not been very good this year. And I believe he is a pending free agent. And so I'm not moving a lot for a pending free agent that's not pitched particularly well this season. All right, let's get to our last one. This player was mentioned in the chat. You can probably tell just by the silhouette, just like the vicious nature at which he throws and the fact that he's the only lefty that we've used so far. Having a career year, 1.36 ERA, 48 strikeouts over 33 innings, just 9 walks. And that's really been the main reason as to why his whip has been so good. He's a free agent this winter, so he is a rental. But you look at all of the red there. Chase rates, elite. Whiff rates, elite. Strikeout rates, elite. Fastball velocity, still just off the charts, even at 37 years old. Andrew, probably no surprise as to who this is. I think you could probably guess as to who this is. I know the chat it's already been named in the chat. But this is Aroldis Chapman. Yeah. And Chapman has, according to this list, a 35% chance of being traded. We've talked about Chapman a lot on this show. In fact, I talked about Chapman and acquiring a teammate of his in Justin Wilson. This dude is like not only fighting time, but like beating up time. It's like, you ever see the meme manager where it's like, I'm going to go fight, fill in the blank. And then it's like, damn, they got hands. Like the one that's going on right now is like, I'm going to go fight 99 temperature. Yeah. It's like, damn, 99 got hands. Like Aroldis Chapman is not only fighting time, but is beating time.
Yeah.
And the big thing with him this year is he's not walking guys. His control has been excellent. Now, the balance for Chapman is 37. Unrestricted free agent at next year. Probably going to parlay this into another 1-year deal with bigger money than he's got this year. And the question is, do the Red Sox still think they're contenders? They're 40-41. Do they still think they're contenders?
No.
I don't think they are.
No, they're definitely not.
Their rotation's not good enough outside of Garrett Crochet. They've moved Devers. If they move Chapman, I think they're signaling they don't think they're competing. I think the Red Sox looked at this year, overvalued their team, and a lot of people, including myself, overvalued the Red Sox, who thought they had postseason aspirations and still could, only one game out under 500. But I think what the Red Sox are going to gun for is a big swing in free agency this upcoming offseason. And whether that means Pete Alonso opts out and they sign him, whether that means, I said this on John Marks' show today, I genuinely think Ranger Suarez may be a Red Sox next year. They're going to spend a ton of money to get starting pitching. I think that is their correction point, is next offseason when they have some money and availability to spend. Chapman would be really, really, really intriguing. The concern, age, at what point does the regression of command go back to the mean, and unrestricted free agent this offseason. So now that you have all 5 of them, I'm going to have you, Andrew, rank the likeliest to least likely, and I'll do the same, of Phillies acquiring, or let's just say the Phillies because we're running out of time. Phillies acquiring any one of these guys. I think, to me, Chapman most likely.
Okay.
I would almost go in reverse order. I think Chapman, Fairbanks, Bautista, then I would go Duran, then Class. So almost reverse order.
Okay.
I think the likeliest is that the Phillies call Boston about Chapman.
I would probably agree with you on your assessment there, your list of who would go first. I think Chapman is probably the top, yeah.
All right, let's get you out of here. You got to do the Sixers at 3. I apologize. Kept you way longer than you should. Big thank you to everybody in the chat. This was a lot of fun exercise. Big thank you to Andrew and Joey for producing today's show. We will be back Friday afternoon as we wrap up the Astros series and get you set for the weekend ahead as well. Big time game today. Paul Skeens, Jacob Mizorowski today. I can't wait to watch that one unfold. 2 really exciting power young arms. So big thank you to everybody in the chat. We'll be back on Friday, 1 o'clock, right here for the PHLY Phillies podcast. All right, that's it. We'll talk to you then. See you.
We all silly like the mayor.
I'm